Welcome to the Four Rooms podcast, where we explore the four rooms of entrepreneurship: health, wealth, scale, and relationships. Each episode is dedicated to opening new doors and uncovering insights that empower you to design your entrepreneurial journey to be both lucrative and fulfilling. And now, your hosts, Amber Spears and Brett Kaufman.
Welcome to the Four Rooms podcast, where we believe that you can have success in business and in life. I'm here today with who I consider to be the money man of Four Rooms, Mr. Justin Maxwell. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He is a visionary speaker and financial architect. He's dedicated his career to redefining the landscape of entrepreneur success. His mission is to guide you through a transformative journey from wealth creation to legacy building. At the heart of his work lies a profound belief: true success transcends personal achievement, evolving into lasting impact. He's also my money man. My personal business life, I made that switch last year and couldn't be more happy with that transition. And he's helped me through a lot of stuff and continues to. So I'm personally very grateful. And he's become a pillar in our Four Rooms community when it comes to anything financial, architecture, tax mitigation, tax strategy, etc. So thank you, Justin, for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Amber. Really, really grateful for your kindness. So thank you.
Dude, you're the best. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Okay, so I want to get to it. I want to talk about abundance. You're the money man. So you get to see basically into people's financial underwear drawer, which is, I'm sure, a great honor and also requires a lot of patience, discretion, handholding, teaching, which is good because you're a former teacher, right? Which we'll talk about as well. But I'm really curious as the money man. Obviously, discretion is key here. We're not going to name any names or do anything like that. But you see so many different entrepreneurs and their finances. What are some commonalities that you see between the entrepreneurs who are doing really well? Maybe they're taking home a lot of profit. Their businesses is growing. Maybe they're acquiring other companies. They're this amount of financial success. Are there any common threads that you see, either in how they set up their businesses, their mindset, et cetera? I'd love to hear that from you.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And the thing that I notice most, I think it's best to let's put a dichotomy on. I'll start with what I see often with people that outwardly look like they're just crushing it. But then when you look behind the scenes, like there would be no difference between them and a W-2 person or someone that's living paycheck to paycheck. And like, it looks like they're crushing it. And in all reality, like they just haven't dialed in any systems. And is what I have found is that most people view their identity through how big their business is without setting in the frameworks and the systems and organization on the back end to transform the income they're earning into actual wealth and sustainability. So essentially is what has happened with a lot of business owners, even though they're really successful, really abundant on the outside, is that if something happens in the marketplace, something happens in their personal life, that income stops and they fall all the way back to where they were when they first started. And they're not really free. All they've done is just learn how to make a whole bunch of money. And I see that more often than not. That's usually the case for most business owners when they start working with us, is they just really great at making money. Doesn't mean they're bad people. They just aren't great at keeping it. There's nothing around the way that if you looked at them, their net worth isn't great. The amount of money in their bank account isn't great. Sometimes they're behind on taxes. Sometimes they've made a whole bunch of investments that are really risky. And it really hasn't been sustainable. So that's like the first image that I want you to view, because that's really, really common. And I want you to, if you're that person, because usually people know they're that person, that's not something you should be ashamed of, because the hardest part around creating wealth is making money. And you've already checked that box off. And so that's a skill that you can repeat and you can keep doing it over and over and over again. But now you have to learn that the people that both make lots of money and build lots of wealth, they also have the skill of putting in backstops and investing well and creating automations in the way that they handle their money and the way that they pay taxes. They put systems in place. And that's the biggest distinguishing factor between the people that are good at making money versus the people that are good at making money and building wealth that's sustainable.
That's a great distinction. What are like some of the most common fears that you hear when someone's coming to work with you?
Yeah, I think it's the there's a lot of inner child fears that people have. Like it usually manifests itself in money. If you fear abandonment, for example, like you're probably going to hoard money somewhere or do something of that nature with it, or because you're afraid of it being the money's abandoning you. It's always tied to Like it's something that's internally that happened in their past. And so like I'll give an example for myself. So in my childhood, it wasn't anyone's fault. It was just, I just recognized this recently. So in my elementary years had a hard time like having them invite me into their circles. So I would make an attempt to reach out to them and then they would deny me. And it was maybe there was enough space or the game was already full, but I took that personally. And then every friend that I made close relationships with eventually moved out of my neighborhood. And I just had all these experiences where if I attempted to make a relationship with someone that I would get rejected or they'd leave in some manner. So I built like this life that prevented all that from ever happening. So like with me, I hide true deep relationship when it comes to money. Like I never tied the fact that to money, and it reflected in the way that I thought about the big vision of what I was creating. It just like had impacts on like my marriage subtly and partially. So like if you can identify those things, those fears are usually the fears you have there, and usually they're made up in your mind and they actually weren't that big of a deal. It was just your inner child inability to process what actually happened, and it just is manifesting in the way you're treating money and other people. That's what I usually find is the actual case behind it. I know that's a little bit more psychological than it is money, but that's usually where the fears come from. But usually it's I'm afraid of running out of money. I'm afraid of not being enough. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose it all. I'm afraid of people judging me, or you had a bad experience with a rich person in the future. So you actually are holding back on your actual potential because you're afraid of looking like that person as well. So those are the things that I notice quite frequently.
Man, it's so philosophical. I didn't think that I would get that answer from you. It's a really good one. I appreciate the recognition and awareness that our backgrounds are things that we have to unlearn. I think so much of what I'm learning as an entrepreneur and as just a human being closer to 40 than 30 now is just like looking at things and being willing to recognize that there's a lot of unlearning that needs to be done, perhaps even more than learning. And that's one of the things because it just gets in the way. You know, of so much. And you can learn new stuff to try to hack at it, but unless you actually address the root cause of that behavior and unlearn it, you'll repeat a lot of those same mistakes.
And then to kind of tie it back to your first question, if you can do that work, you now have found, I'll just call it your true self. And your true self has the ability to be as abundant as you want. And your true self really knows what it wants in the future. And now you can identify what you want in the future and you can reverse engineer it to now. And you can do that both in your business, but also with your personal finances. How much money do I have to invest? What is it you actually want in the future? But so many people are chasing other people's futures, not their own, because they're trying to look cool, or fancy cars are what make you look rich and all this stuff. But that's not actually what you want. But you don't know what you actually want until you do what you just said. You find out who you truly are. Once you know who you truly are, then you can identify what you truly want. And now you can actually start building your life around what that actually is.
It's clarity, man, too. I think that's the one thing that you and I help a lot of entrepreneurs get is clarity.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people can't even answer that question. What do I want?
Yeah, most people have no idea. It's all, they'll throw out, I'll just keep on the money thing, but they'll throw out like, I want 5 million. Well, what does that even mean? Like 5 million doesn't mean anything. That's probably not enough to support the life you actually want, but it's like be so clear around what you actually want, and then you can build the finances and wealth around it to create it. And the cool thing is when you get that clarity around it, you also then start to create the wealth around it because now you're manifesting it and you're seeing it really clearly, and things and opportunities will start popping up in your way and your path, and it will become real because you know exactly what you want and you're moving towards it, and you've built your financial life to support that. So I think it's really important to do that. And I know that a lot of people probably weren't expecting us to go this direction, but I think that's really clear distinction, again, to go back to the people that are crushing it versus the people that aren't, is they have that clarity and the people that aren't don't.
It's powerful, man. This is why most people don't hear this kind of stuff when it comes to money. But I think they should be listening because you see so many entrepreneurs in your firm, you know, and you get to actually see their numbers, not just what they say they make, what they actually make and their actual growth. And, you know, it's a very valuable insight that most people don't have.
Yeah.
So that's very useful. You know, I'd love to chat with you a little bit about I mentioned it before, but your background's pretty unique. You're a school teacher turned family office strategist. Like, how did you make that switch, and what triggered you to want to start working with us crazy entrepreneurs? Because we're a lot.
Yeah, really, this has been a lot of work for me because I didn't know why I made the switch in the first place, but I think I do now. I've had this internal desire to do extraordinary things my entire life, but going back to that inner child, I'll just give an example. Like I wanted to play in the NFL, for example. Like that's highly aspirational. That's the top level tier of the world. But because that requires you to put yourself out there and go full into something, because of those experiences I had, I never put myself fully into anything. I could get good at things, I could identify things, and I could get to a certain level. But to break past those ceilings, you have to go all in, and you have to put yourself out there and be willing to fail and put the extra effort and that. And if you have that little block that if you put yourself out there, you're going to be made fun of or not succeed, or it's just going to fail, like you don't do that. So I have always had that burning desire, but then I had this pulling me back at the same time. And so I never actually achieved it. So the reason I went into teaching in the first place is because I felt like that was a place where I could hide. I could do really good work, but hide myself because it's not seen. People know that teachers aren't like they're respected, but they're really not like they're not seen at the highest of levels. Like that's just really not like those don't go together. You don't view someone as a teacher as this absolutely rock star person.
Which sucks.
It sucks, but that's just the reality. Yeah. So that I went there for that reason. But when I was there, I hit a ceiling. I just kept finding frustration, and it was just complete happenstance. I wanted to be so teaching plus college professor was like the path that I was on. College professor, safe. I can do good work. I can help society. I can do research. When I finished my master's degree, I came to the conclusion I hated doing research, which is what professors do. And so that event of hating research, like opened my mind to I might need to find another career. And so I was teaching, but I had my least glimpse of opening myself up to something new. And while I had this open window, I heard Garrett Gunderson speak at an event, and he's
a great speaker.
The light that of entrepreneurship shined through that little opening that I'd opened up for myself. And it just opened to, I can go create my own abundance. And it was in alignment with what I wanted to create anyway, high aspirational, do good, big things. And I had the permission to go do it. And it was a long journey from that speech to where we are today. But that was what opened the door, is from teaching to that. So if I hadn't had the holding back of going full out on things, I probably would have ended up here anyway. It just was, I had to stop at teaching first until I realized that that wasn't what I actually wanted. It wasn't big enough of a goal or big enough of an aspiration.
So why money? Why did you do that?
Yeah, so it was, everything is happenstance with me, and everything is very serendipitous with me. So Garrett spoke at an event. I happened to just I was doing lots of different things. I was just exploited real estate investing. I sold things. I was just trying to figure it out. I was teaching at the same time. And I went to another event, and Garrett spoke again. And he said there was a calendar link. So I said, I'll just book a call to see what's going on here. And the call went to Derek, my business partner now. And so I spoke with Derek. We had a good conversation. Probably about a year later, I was sitting at my kitchen table, and I was just like, I wonder what Derek did to get to where he is now. Like, how do you end up there? Like, what do you do around money and finance and business to end up in that spot? So I called him. We had a good conversation. And then that basically triggered off what have created now.
Nice.
Created that. So that's how I ended up in money. It was just that. But I think I want to make this distinction, because I thought it was going to be money, but it really is just business. All business is money, taxes is money, and I'm going to change it from money to wealth. So business is wealth, taxes is wealth, investing is wealth, insurance is wealth. Anything that has to do with your ability to create value is just wealth. And so for me, it's actually not just money. It's just, this is how you operate business, both from the personal side and the business side. That's where I've arrived at now. But it looks like money on the surface.
I love that, dude. I learn so much from you every time we talk. I want to hear a little bit about your approach, because, I've been hawked everywhere and probably bought a lot of it. Shouldn't have when I was young, like the Northwestern Mutual stuff and, everything else. I've been smart with some stuff, and I've been really dumb in others. And some of the stuff that you've talked about and taught me, I've learned a lot. It's a different approach than what I see most people talking about, which is like pure stocks, Ks, the Roth, the different funds, the index funds, all that. And I'm curious, like, if you want to share a little bit about your mentality on either being like an owner investor or, the endowment model that you talk about, that kind of stabilization and consistent growth over time instead of kind of being tied to the ups and downs of the stock market, even though, historically it's gone up. But, there's definitely the ways that you've been showing us in the group in particular have been really interesting and very different.
Yeah, so I think I'll start with this. I think it's really important to understand who you are in this group and who we're talking with. So I'll drop it down to about 90% of Americans don't need the advice that I'm about to give. 90% of Americans are also W-2. 90% of Americans are middle class or less. So who is the financial media speaking to? Who are all the products created for? It's not created for the ultra wealthy. They take advantage of some of the things, but they're going to tweak it and make it on their own. So we have to really realize who is sending us the information and who are they speaking to. And they're speaking to the masses, and the people in your group, Amber, are not the masses. So we have to first articulate and understand, like, why am I getting different messages from the way Justin is talking and the way other people are talking that are doing different things than what the traditional advice is the masses need one thing. You are not the masses, and you need something different, and you need to level up into different aspects of the way that you view money, just because you have so much more on the table flowing in. The average American makes like 60 grand a year. You make that probably in a month. That amount of money probably passes through your business in a month. And that's probably a low month for a lot of the people in your group. So you just have to realize that we're talking about two different segments. So that's the first confusion point, is that most of the marketing and most of the messaging is centered on those people. It's just different. Does that make sense first?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Okay. The second factor, and this will go back to our earlier conversation, is that most people have no idea what they want. So they have no idea what products to be buying, what investments they should be making, because they have no idea what they want. So they're just guessing. They're trying to piecemeal or Frankenstein this financial picture together because they don't know their final destination. If you can get super, super clear on your final destination, it will tell you exactly what you should be doing today. Where should I be doing my money? What should I be doing? Should it be in my business? Should it be in this stock? Should I buy insurance? It tells you what to do. So let me give an example on this. So like, I have a very clear vision that in 20 years, I'm going to give away $1 million for the first time. That will not be the last time. It's going to be $1 million the rest of my life, at least, because it's going to be in a foundation and it will just continually spit off at least $1 million a year from that point forward. Does me putting money into a cash balance plan or defined benefit plan or into these qualified plan structures, SEPs and 401ks, and is that going to do anything that's going to help me fulfill that vision of completing that task in the future? It doesn't help me at all to do that. So I now have eliminated an entire decision that I need to make. I don't even have to ponder whether that's a good decision or not, because I know it's not going to help me get there. Now, someone might have a completely different vision of theirs, and they might want to have $4 million in the bank, and they're going to retire and they're just going to live in the woods, and it's going to be really small amounts of income in the future, and they don't really care. They just want to live life in that environment. Then maybe those products and those things would be the good choice for that person because it actually aligns with their vision. The problem with the financial industry right now is that everyone's pitched these all size buckets, and it makes people believe they have to get into those things if they're doing what the wealthy do or what the rich do. But they're choosing those things because they've been forced upon them, versus defining your future and then working back and deciding, is this actually going to help me get there? So that's the bigger vision of what you have to create. And that's the way that we think about it. The next thing after you have your vision is you have to start to understand, like I mentioned earlier, everything intersects. So it's not just tax planning. It's not just investment. It's not just insurance. It's not just your business. They're all interconnected. They're all forming a ball. So most people, when they tax plan, they are tax planning to just save taxes because it makes them feel good. So that's the marketing, that everyone on the internet saying we can save X amount of dollars in taxes and we can do all of this. But that's not the most important part. The most important part is what happens next. And I learned this from Lee Richter, and this was,
Love her.
The way she described this actually sparked this thought in my mind. So she said that she set an ambitious goal, she hit it, and then it kind of tumbled a little bit after that. But the reason she said it tumbled is because she didn't set a vision for what was next. And she said, if I had set a vision for what was next, this would have never happened. And I would have been able to take off from here instead of where I am currently. Just extremely, extremely, just valuable advice. But so many people tax plan to get to the tax savings instead of tax planning to get to what is next. So you should be thinking, I save taxes so that I can invest into other people's assets, or so that I can invest in my own business and accelerate its growth, so that I can buy someone else's business. But unless you have your advisors, your experts, your professionals all thinking that way, and like they're all in a line, so the tax piece is interconnected with the investment piece, which is interconnected with the investment piece, it's very unlikely that those tax savings will actually make it anywhere. They'll just end up in spending, and you will have saved taxes and felt good, but had no tangible difference in your life or in your wealth. So the philosophy that we're bringing is that all of this is the same, and we have to just take each piece in its singularity first, but then merge it into everything else second.
Yeah, it's definitely a very different approach than I've seen. Will you kind of end with us talking about the endowment model, or if not that, because I know that's kind of the word that you call it. For me, what was interesting when I heard you explain it was just the diversification of the investments that you have in there that feel that like it really gives it far more stability. I think for those of us in Trump's second term and the first part of it, we're like, what the F? Like, especially in e-commerce, the tariffs, the stock market right now, it's insane, and you're just seeing so many people flashing warning signs. We've been downgraded by Moody's. There's all kinds of stuff going on. I feel like it's a very interesting time. And I feel like more than ever, after I heard about how you set up these models for the entrepreneurs, that it made the most sense to me than it's ever made. 'Cause I'm like, oh, if I was diversified in this outside of crypto and stocks and a little bit of real estate, I wouldn't feel like this tight, like in my chest, like what is going to happen, and I'm young, so plenty of time to make money and make mistakes, but like even I feel it, and I'm curious if you want to share a little bit about why you have that endowment model, besides the fact that it makes more money in the long term, significantly more, but I'd be curious on that and how it affects the current economic stuff happening right now.
I'd be happy to. The first thing I want to mention with this is the reason that we are so passionate about this specific model for business owners specifically is that the return on emotion. If you're riding the stock market, or a lot of entrepreneurs love Bitcoin, like if you're riding that wave of like ups and downs, like it's gone all over the place. You're up,
Yeah.
actually we're in is down again. Even if you're like, I'm still holding on to it, there's still an emotional cost to that roller coaster ride, because you know that it's your money. And there's always the fear that it could go to zero. Like, that that's always the chance. And if your money is riding that, there's an emotional cost to that. And if you're emotionally focused on that, then your business probably isn't doing as well. You're not as engaged, you're not as focused, you're not as abundant in thinking there. So it has a negative effect on the business. It might have a negative effect on your family. It might have a negative effect on your faith, which now you're not living in abundance anymore. So that's it's not the primary reason, but that's one of the primary reasons we love the endowment model so much, is because you're still going to have losses, but because you can see the whole picture and you know that as a whole, the portfolio is up or not down nearly as far as 15 or 20% at once, your emotions are much stronger, and you can then be much more abundant in the business and on that side of things.
Sorry, I didn't even think about that.
So that's the first reason we actually like it the best for business owners, because your biggest moneymaker is your business, not your investment portfolio. Your investment portfolio eventually will become, because you're going to become one of the reasons we use the language owner investor is because you actually are becoming an investor. It's just that right now, for most people, their business is their highest and best and biggest cash flow machine. And if you allow yourself to get distracted from that, trying to chase the latest trends and stay up to date on it, it's likely that if you had just spent that same amount of time in your business, you could have made the exact amount of money that you had lost in that. But because you're so focused over here, you both lost it and lost the opportunity to grow. So the endowment model allows you to let it do what it's doing and focus on just making your business into the biggest behemoth that it could be. But when it comes to like the idea behind the endowment model is that it provides volatility protection. So there's a phrase that's called standard deviation. That's how far things fall up and down. Like how big do they go up and how far do they fall? The S&P 500 has a standard deviation of about 15. Bitcoin is probably going to be in the 30 standard deviation. When you get an endowment model right, you have about a 5% standard deviation.
Wow, huge difference.
So it's a massive difference. So you're not right. You're still going to have things that go down because you still have a stock market exposure in the endowment model. You're not abandoning it completely, but you're steadying the ride. And the focus is, how can I make sure that I'm saving enough money to go into those? It will do what it's going to do. And I'm just going to keep building my business, and they're going to grow simultaneous to each other. And then when you reach whatever point, your destination of wherever life you're creating, you're actually going to hit it because you have two asset classes that are working together. And the way I would like you to view it is, I'd like you to view your business as a part of your portfolio. So like, it's a percentage part of your portfolio. It's something you invest into, and it just starts to be seen as one and the same. I'm focusing on taxes on reducing my my business because it's part of my portfolio, but I'm also focusing on taxes on the overall portfolio. So how can I avoid capital gains on these things and make things long-term capital? Like it's all seen as one and the same. And the endowment model allows us to do that very clearly. And for those of you that don't know what the endowment model is, it's asset class diversification. So I'm not just focused on public markets. I have actual physical real estate. I have private equity. I have venture capital. I have commodities. I have private credit, private debt, agriculture. Like, you're building a portfolio that's full of different assets and asset classes, not just because every financial advisor has to diversify inside the stock market. So they'll diversify you in the public markets, but more so now than ever, the public markets all rise and fall together. So if Tesla goes down, everyone goes down. If Microsoft goes down, everyone goes down. They just follow the trend. Asset class diversification prevents that. And for those of you that care about this as evidence, but the largest endowments in America, that's why it's called the endowment model, and then the largest family offices in America have all shifted the way that they invest their portfolios in this manner. And this includes Warren Buffett's family office. So Warren Buffett is seen as a stock market person. If you said Warren Buffett, you automatically think best stock market investor in the world. His family office invests this way. His daughter runs their family office just like this. She doesn't do 100% stock. So just keep that in mind, that this is the way that the largest and most wealthiest families are moving. And they have moved for the last 40 years. And this is just the way that they operate, because they don't like volatility. They just like predictability.
Awesome, dude. That was great. I'm super grateful for you. And I know we learned a lot. This is why you're the money man at Four Rooms. And I'm excited to have you teach again, and continue learning from you and growing with you, and appreciate you taking all of my texts and phone calls and teaching me all the things and being so incredibly patient and so easy to work with and so brilliant, because it's really a huge benefit to all of us inside of Four Rooms that we get to have you there and work with you. And I'm very grateful to be friends and to also have you teaching me and leading me how to be better at investing and better at being all around better at business. And I have a good winning team because I have you on the team, and I'm grateful.
Yeah. Thank you, Amber. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Really quick before we go, how would people find you besides being able to be a member and get some audits with you and some financial strategies as part of the membership? What are some ways if people are listening and they're like, I want to do this with Justin, hook me up? Where do they find you?
Yeah, so I'm active on all the major social medias, but LinkedIn is a really easy way to find me. I'm also I have a YouTube channel that is getting better and more active. I'm not fully there, but I do have and produce content there fairly frequently. And then the easiest way is, honestly, if you just text me, I'll just provide my phone number, and you can just say, hey, I'm in Four Rooms and I just enjoyed what you had to say, and I just like to have a conversation on what I can do. 801-882-1377. But I want to leave the message that I am very much value driven. And so any conversation I have doesn't mean you're like locking yourself into work with me. Sure. I just want to see people be successful. And so whether you work with me or have conversations, I just want to see you can take what I say and you can go implement it with your current team. And I'd be as happy as can be with you. But I know that I can give a lot of strategies that people don't currently implement and do things they currently aren't doing that they should be taking back to their current team if they absolutely love their current team. I'm happy to help people construct those things so they can actually excel. My big overall vision is, if you can lock in and create wealth in a way that allows you to give you the permission to leave impact, you're affecting millions of lives long term, because your children are impacted. It's generational, and they are going to affect lives. So I'm more interested in people actually getting to their destinations than who they choose to get there. And I'm happy to have those conversations to give you the permission to get there.
Thanks, man. You're so generous. I really appreciate you always giving your time. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you really soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Amber.
As we wrap up today's episode, we have something special just for you. If you've been inspired by what we've explored today and you're ready to take your learning to the next level, then our 4 Rooms Mastermind live event is the perfect next step. And because you're a part of our podcast family, we're offering an exclusive 10% discount on your registration when you apply and are accepted. This is your chance. It's your chance to build relationships with other ambitious entrepreneurs like yourself, to dive deeper into the 4 rooms of entrepreneurship, and to connect with experts who can truly help accelerate your growth. Simply follow the event link in the description of this episode and use the promo code 4rooms10. That's FOURROOMS10 on your application to claim this opportunity. This offer is subject to application approval and it's limited, so don't wait too long to make your decision. Join us and transform your journey with the insights and networking that only our live events can offer. Thank you for tuning in today. We look forward to seeing you at the event and, of course, right back here next time on the 4 Rooms podcast. Until then, keep balancing and keep growing.